Good morning, everybody. How is everyone doing today on this wonderful Saturday, beautiful Saturday morning? Hope everybody's doing good. I'm sure a lot of you got some cool plans for today. I got some cool stuff planned. Don't know exactly what time I'm gonna do it though, but yeah, we got some stuff planned we need to do today and get some stuff done and stuff. Probably go hang out later or something. We don't know yet. But so just want to come here this morning. So, been wanting to do a little video like this for quite some time, and I just didn't have all the stuff to do the video with. So, actually went and got the rest of the things I needed yesterday to do this video. Minus just one thing, but I can pretty much explain that in. So, it's kind of hard to get your hands on this one particular piece. So what I want to show you today is this. So, as you see, these are 5 valve covers. These are 5 valve covers that come on 5 of the engine options for a Ford Escort from either a GT or LX or ZX2, either from 1986 all the way to 2003. So basically, wanted to make this video. Now, before I get started, I want to say this is a 1.9 valve cover from an 86 to 90 Ford Escort GT. Now, I want to say the early 80s, somewhere around 81. I think it was like 81 to 85. They had a 1.6 liter engine in them, and the valve cover is a little bit different. And it's hard to get your hands on that particular valve cover, especially around here in junkyards. It's hard for me to get my hands on anything, that year. These 86 valve covers are hard to come by sometimes. So I was just able. Luckily, I had this one as a spare. And actually, I had a few of these as spares too. I actually picked up these 2 recently, but these 3 I've already had. So yeah, the only valve cover that I don't have, of course, is the 81 through 85, which is a 1.6 liter. So that's what I was missing. That's the one piece to the puzzle I needed. It was an 81 through 85 valve cover, and I don't have it, but the valve cover is similar to this. It just has like a little raised area over here. So, but yeah, too bad I couldn't actually get one for you guys to see what it looks like. But I wasn't able to do that. So I said, well, screw it. I'll just make the best of this video I can without it. All right. So yeah, these engines, they go from 86 all the way to 2003. So this engine came in a 1986 to 1990 Ford Escort GT, which you consider a first generation. This engine, the 1.9 SCFI, as y'all see, in 1.9 SCFI, this engine came in a 91 through 96 Ford Escort LX. This engine here, which you see, this is a dual overhead cam. 16 valve engine here. This is called the BP05. This engine came in the 91 through 96 Ford Escort GT. This engine here is, as everybody calls it, the SPI. This is split port induction. This engine came in 97 through 2000 Escort LX. And last but not least, we have variable cam timing Ford Escort ZX2. This engine came in a Ford Escort ZX2, ranged from 98 to 2003. So basically, the point of this video is that I get a lot of inboxes. Hey man, what can I do to make this engine fast, this engine fast, this engine. So and also sometimes I'll see on the FEOA Facebook site, people ask, hey man, what can I do to make more power with this? What can I do to make more power with this? What can I do to make more power with this? Some people ask about this as well, and some people ask about this, but they don't ask about the twin cam engines as much as they ask about the single cam engines. Okay, and so these are considered CVH engines. This is a CVH. This is a CVH. This is a CVH. Okay, and what I mean by CVH is compound valve hemispherical. It's the style and design of the cylinder head, because the cylinder head, if you ever taken one of these CVH engines apart, right? The CVH engine actually has the camshaft in the center of the cylinder head rather than on top. Like these engines here, the cams sit on top of the head. These here, the camshaft actually sits in the middle of the cylinder head. So you have what's called an overhead valve. That they call it like overhead valve. So that's because the camshaft actually sits, in the sits in the cylinder in the head. It sits in the center of the cylinder head, not on top. So, all right. So I get, I get inboxes from people asking me those questions, and I also will get, I also see the post on FEOA. Well, when people actually post it, hey man, what can I do to get more power out of a 1.9 SEFI? What can I do to get more power out of a split port induction 2-liter? What can I do to get more power out of this 1.9? This is called the 1.9 EFI HO. So this is high output. So that's the high output 1.9. So when I start reading the comments from the FEOA post about what can they do to get more performance out of these 3 engines here, you'll get, hey man, you better off just doing a swap. Hey man, you're better off just doing this. Hey man, you're better off just doing that. Now, I'm going to say this, and I'm going to say this professional as I can. Guys, if you have not had any experience with either one of these 3, either 5 of these, don't tell someone what they should and shouldn't do. Because these people are coming to us for help, to figure out what can they do to get more performance out of this particular engine, this particular engine, this particular engine. They're not asking, hey, what swaps can I do? Or hey, which engine should I go with and replace this? They're wanting to know what can they do to get more performance out of this particular platform. Not this, not a K series, not a KL, not a 2.3. I think it's called a MZR. The 2.3 that comes in a Mazda 3, the 2.3 4-cylinder. They're not asking for that. They're asking, what can they do to get more performance out of these? Now I'm going to tell y'all, I started with this engine right here. This was my first engine I built. This was the first engine I had nitrous on. This is the first engine I had a supercharger. And this is the first engine I had a turbo on. So this motor was trial and error to me. So this engine went through, actually, and then it was naturally aspirated at one time before as well. So I went through 4 phases with this engine. 4 phases. And this engine, I did blow it up, But back then I really didn't know what tuning was, Didn't know how to tune and stuff like that. So of course I was tearing up engines just like anybody else does that first gets into this. Everybody's blown an engine up in their life, that messes with this stuff. Hurt a transmission messing with this stuff. So it's just, it's nature of the beast, man. This is how you learn. So this engine right here made me a big time believer. And I'm going to tell you, I used to follow a guy, I'm sure a lot of you know him, Jeff Escort LX, back in the day on the forum. I used to follow him. And, you know, when I seen that he was making this engine work with a turbo and stuff like that, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put some time into this thing. And I did. And I'm going to tell you what, I don't regret it. I learned a lot with this engine. I figured out what it likes, what it don't like. You know, I learned a lot. You know, I learned a whole lot. And, you know, I thank Jeff for that because I was like, man, I said, he can do it, I can do it. You know what I'm saying? So, so I was thankful that I was able to follow him and watch the stuff that he did. And I think later on he ended up doing like a ZX2 engine swap in one of his builds. But yeah, man, I watched him do a lot of stuff with this 1.9 liter. Hence to why I stuck by this engine so well, because I know how well it works. I know how it likes boost. I know how it likes nitrous. I know how it likes supercharger, and I know how it reacts to naturally aspirated. The key to it all is you can make power with this, and this. It don't matter what engine you have out of this category of 5 engines here. You can make power with any of these. Any of these engines will make power. A lot of guys look for, well, they don't make aftermarket support for them. They don't make this. They don't do this. They don't do that. How many of you guys have actually tried to reach out to these companies and ask them, hey, can you make a set of cams for this engine? Hey, can you make an intake manifold for this engine? Hey, can you make, you know, can you make a set of rods and pistons for this engine? You know, I just don't feel like people actually reach out and do the homework to figure out if this stuff is really non-existent for these engines, you know, regardless of what it may be. But I will tell you this. I see a lot more people wanting to figure out how to get power out of these three right here, these 3 CVHs, rather than the BP05 or the Z-Tech engine, right? So you can get good power out of these 3 platforms. I guarantee every last one of y'all, you'll be able to get 300 horsepower out of any of these 3 engines on a stock rod. I did it for 14 years. My motor finally let go last year, last November. My motor finally let go, and this motor right here, this engine had 14 years of street driving, abuse, and whatever else you want to say. It had a lot of abuse on it, and it lasted 14 years. But dependability is going to depend on also, you know, you got to make sure that you have the correct parts and the correct tune on any of these engines, not just these 3, but any of them. Combination and tuning are key to a long-lasting engine, long-lasting, reliable engine. You got to know how to clearance your bearings, how to clearance your rings, you know, how to set up your cylinder heads, stuff like that. It's very important. And like I said, a lot of people have came to me privately and asked me how to get power out of these. And I just, as a matter of fact, I just sent a guy a build sheet for a, I think it was for 1.9. Yeah, it was for 1.9 liter. I sent him a build sheet for 1.9. You know, he wants to do like a full built 1.9. And I'm going to tell y'all, Powder Rods makes a set of connecting rods, Forge H-beam connecting rods for these CVH engines. I called them up and talked to them personally. They do make one. And if they didn't, they can still make one. If you send your rod to any company, Eagle, Carrillo, Powder, you know, what's the other ones? Stanley. I mean, I'm not Stanley. Manley rods. Those people will make you rod. It's not going to be cheap, but it can be done. And I mean, you know, you got to look at when you spend money. You're going to spend money on making anything fast. You're not going to go you know what I'm saying, you're not gonna go nowhere. You ain't gonna go to the junkyard, grab an engine, and then find a turbo kit for free, you know, or find a standalone setup for free and just put it all in there and think you'll just make power. No, it don't work like that. You're going to have to spend money in some type of way, shape, form, or fashion. Now, I understand everybody's financial plan and everybody's, how can I say this? Everybody's financial stuff is different. I'm trying to find a professional way to say it, but I was trying to figure out how to say it so everybody understands. But everybody's finances and their financial stuff is different from everybody else's. Not everybody has the same financial capabilities. Their financial capabilities don't go as far as other people's. So there's ways to get more power out of these engines on a budget. It is, but the thing about it is, if you're going to do it on a budget, you got to know how to make these engines perform on a budget. You know, it takes a lot of research. It takes a lot of trial and error. I've been to the junkyard, been doing this for 20 some years, man, and going to the junkyard and actually, you know, doing like hands-on stuff, taking stuff apart, measuring stuff, trying to see what would fit what, stuff like that. You know, it's a lot to it, you know, so that's why I tell people these three platforms right here that are the most overlooked, you can make power out of these. You can make power with these. I mean, you know, you guys see me on the dyno with this one. You know, I had a green LX with this engine in there that was turbo. It was naturally aspirated first, then in turbo. And now this one, I haven't done anything with yet. But I have a car that I'm actually going to turbocharge with this engine in it. And I'm going to probably do it on stock rods first. See what I can get out of it. Which I know I can get 300 horsepower out of it, no problem. No problem. On a good tune and stuff. Beyond that, I'm not sure, you know, because you have to consider and take into consideration these engines do not have forged internals. You know, they do not have forged internals. You know, they don't have cast cranks. They don't have forged cranks, forged rods, nothing like that. You know, just got cast crank, cast rod, stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, that's one thing you definitely have to keep in mind. But aside from that, you can still make power with these engines. And the people that get on FEOA with this platform right here and want to learn how to make power with this particular platform, you know, they don't need to hear, oh man, we'll just pull that motor out and just put something else in there. Because 9 times out of 10, and like I said, I'm going to say this again, and I'm going to say it as professional as I can, the people that are telling them that have not had any experience with either 3 of these platforms and have no idea what they're capable of. I do, because this is where I started. You know what I'm saying? So I know what these engines will do. I know what these CVH engines will do. I know what these CVH engines like, all that stuff. So I know I can tell you tons of tricks with this 2 liter, with this 1.9, and that 1.9. You know, the biggest downfall. Now I'm gonna tell you, out of all these engines here, out of that 1.9, this 1.8, this 2.0, this 2.0, and this 1.9, this is the lowest horsepower engine out of the family. This one right here only makes 88 horsepower from the factory. 88 horsepower with like 108 or 110 foot-pounds. So I started with the bottom of the barrel engine. Like this, I ain't gonna say the bottom of the barrel, but like the lowest horsepower engine out of the whole entire family of engines in the Escorts. So if I can make this make power, these will definitely do it, because these make more power than this engine right here. So this engine here, the biggest downfall I learned, what was wrong with this motor right here, why it did not perform as well as it should have, and why it only made 88 horsepower. The cylinder head is very restrictive on a 1.9. If you pull a 1.9 head off, look at the cylinder head, it's very restrictive. It's got little tiny valves in it, small valves, stuff like that. So I actually took the cylinder head. I had a 5-angle valve job done. I had the head race ported and matched to the intake manifold. And the intake manifold was matched to a 3.8 liter Taurus throttle body. And I had a nice cam in it from Crane Cams. Crane Cams made me, reground me a nice cam. Now I will also say this. You can get cams ground also for these engines. But you have, like I said, you got to call companies and talk to them and see, you know, if they can grind your cam, or, you know, how much would it cost you to grind your cam, or can they grind your cam, or hey, can you do a cam for this? Now I'll tell you, if you call Crane, and like a guy named Steve LaRose had did mine. So he did, I think he did like 1 or 2 for me. And, but the only thing is, the only kicker to having a cam ground for one of these CVHs is you have to have the lifter boards shaved down. So when I say that, when they grind the base circle, right? So I'm talking about the actual round part of the cam lobe, not the sharp part of the cam lobe, but the round part of the cam lobe. The round part of the cam lobe. Let me see. I might have a. I don't know if I got any cams here or not. Let me see. Yeah. So here we go. So real quick. So this, when I say the base circle, this is what I mean. The round portion. Not the sharp portion, the round portion. So what happens is when they regrind it, of course, they grind this down, right? See how thick that is? They'll grind that down. And once they grind that down, then your lifter inside that bore will drop. So once the lifter inside the bore drops, the locks and the keepers can't hold on to it anymore. And so what happens is that lifter will actually spin around on the cam lobe. And you don't want that, because if that roller, because you got roller tappets in there, if that roller tappet spins sideways and that cam comes over for a revolution and catches that roller follower, that roller tappet, if it catches that roller sideways, it can tear that cam lobe all to pieces. Trust me, I've had one do it before. I know. So yeah, so that's the only thing with that. You know, of course, whatever cam company you talk to, if they know anything about these engines, they can tell you that, because that's, of course, that's what Steve LaRose at Crane Cams told me. Well, God rest his soul, Steve LaRose passed away a few years back, so he's no longer with us. But that's the guy that made the camshafts. That's the guy that made the cams for my 1.9 back in the day, and also got double valve springs, retainers, and all that stuff with it too. But anyway, so that's a story for another time. All right, so yeah, man. You know, like I said, I started with the lowest horsepower engine. I had some head work done to it. I had the cam in it, you know, and had some other stuff done, and it woke it up, man. Like literally, this engine woke up. I mean, big time woke up. And I have that same exact cylinder head on my red car now, as y'all know, is Raphael. You know, and it makes great power. You know, I mean, if you really think about it, man, 300 horsepower out of any one of these engines, 300 horsepower is you're going to feel it. I'm sorry, you're going to feel it. And the cars that these engines are in, they're not very heavy. They're not very heavy at all. So it's like 300 horsepower, man. That's a really, really fun street car. Now, you know, anything higher than that, that's even more of a fun street car, strip car, whatever you want to do. You know, but, you know, I mean, a lot of guys that's asking to get power out of these, you know, someone might be only asking for like, I'm trying to make an extra 150 horsepower, or I'm trying to make an extra 200 horsepower, or I'm just trying to get 200 horsepower out of it, or what have you. But the thing about it is, yes, the answer to the question, can these 3 engines make power? Absolutely. Absolutely. You can do anything you want to do with these CVHs. They will do the same thing as these twin cams. Promise you they will. I promise you they will. I've already done it. I mean, look, man, I've outran a lot of stuff on the track with this car, with this engine. And a lot of people always accused me of having a swap. Oh man, you got a 1.8 in that thing. I know you got a 1.8 in it. No, I raised the hood, and I got this in there. And then they say, well, damn, I didn't know that engine could do this and that and the third. That's because everybody looks over the CVH platform and goes right to the 1.8 or goes right to the VCT. I mean, the ZTAC. But now I'm not going to lie. This engine right here will take some power in stock form. It's got forged internals. This engine right here will take some power. I don't think this one has forged internals. I think this has a cast crank. If I'm not mistaken, I believe it has a cast crank and cast rods. But if somebody knows different, let me know. But as far as I remember, I believe this had a cast crank and cast rods in it, just like the CVH. But but yeah, I mean, these engines are good too. Don't get me wrong. They make power as well. But my whole thing is, we shouldn't look over these. Just because we don't think, oh, I don't think that engine ain't gonna make no power. Some people look at the valve cover and go, oh, that engine's a joke. Look at it. Look at the way the valve cover looks. That engine ain't gonna make no power. Yeah, but lo and behold, you know, behind closed doors, these things will perform great. Like, yeah, I mean, these, you know, you can make power out of any 5 of these. But these 3 are the most that are looked over. Because a lot of people don't feel like they can make the power. Some people are willing to take this engine out and put in a 3-liter Vulcan. All right, a 3-liter Vulcan has 100 and, I think the Vulcan had like 130 horse, something like that. This motor ranges, this engine right here, range anywhere from 108 to 117 horsepower from the factory. This engine right here, this is considered the CVH. This is a Hemi head. So a Hemi head, this one has actually a full circular combustion chambers. Rather, these have the D-shaped combustion chamber. But this engine right here, man, this engine's got a great flowing cylinder head. It's got bigger valves, intake and exhaust than the SCFI, of course. And people are willing to pull this engine out and put the Vulcan in. Okay, well, that's fine. But you can take this engine right here, do a little bit of massaging, get you a nice little turbo set up, bolt it on there. Now this engine makes 275 horsepower, you know what I'm saying? Like, or 250 horsepower, you know, or even 200 horsepower, you know. So, I mean, it's ways. You got ways to make anything perform the way you want to make it perform. Technology is very high these days. So you can get any type of standalone for any one of these engines. You can get a Hall Tech, you can get a Fuel Tech, you can get a Mega Squirt, you can get Stinger Performance Stinger Performance actually specializes in ECUs for these 3 engines right here, and that one, and the ZTAC. So the ZTAC, the CVHs, you can get a ECU from Stinger Performance, and they will set it up for your car, regardless if it's a 86 through 90 Escort, 91 through 96, 97 through 2000, 98 through 2003. Don't matter. This engine here, Mega Squirt makes a plug-and-play setup for it. I'm not sure who else makes a plug-and-play setup for it. But actually, Donatello's actually got a Mega Squirt on it right now. But yeah, man, I mean, you can get standalone ECUs for all of these. They make them. You know, are they cheap? Absolutely not. You know what I'm saying? If you want to build any one of these engines, man, like, it's not going to be cheap. You know, I'll be honest with you and let you know, man, look, the cheapest route out, you know, you can do some NA stuff. You can do a few, you know, you can do like some machine work to the head and a nice cold air intake, good header, nice exhaust, stuff like that. You know, play with the gearing and the transmission, and you know, you'll have a fairly decently quick Escort on the motor. You know, for decently cheap. Now, when a lot of people say that word turbo, now we're going into a different category, because a lot of people figure, oh man, I can just do a turbo. I can just throw a turbo on this thing, and you know, I can just throw a turbo and do this, do that. A lot of people don't understand, man. When you go turbo, you got to change the fuel system. You got to change, you know, you got to get a manifold. You got to get a turbo. You got to change your injectors. You got to change your fuel pump. Stuff like that. I mean, it's a lot more to turboing a car than a lot of people think. So before you get into that, just understand, when you talk about the turbo world, you're gonna have to spend some money. You ain't gonna have to spend a whole lot of money, but you're gonna have to spend a decent amount of it to get the car right. And it's gonna take some time to get the car right. But like I said before, any 5 of these will make power. These will make power. The most overlooked engines in the Escort community right now, they'll make power. I've proved it several times with that. So a lot of you already know. I mean, I've proved it several times with that engine. But this is going to be my next go round as far as CVHs go. And eventually I'll get back around to building another 2-liter. But I will tell you real quick, this 2-liter right here has the best flowing cylinder head out of the CVH family. And it has 2 ports per cylinder on the intake side. Yes, 2 ports per cylinder on the intake side. It's got bigger valves. It's got the biggest, I think it's got the biggest intake valves and the biggest exhaust valves in the CVH family. This thing here has got the best flowing cylinder head. This one here definitely has a great flowing cylinder head. And of course, this one is going to be your lowest horsepower, basically gas mileage CVH. But any of these 3 will make power. You can port this head, you can port that head, you can port that head, you can get cams for all 3. Now I'm going to tell you another secret, right? I'm going to tell you another secret. This one actually has a 436 lift cam in it from the factory. These 2 have a 405 lift cam from the factory. So you can simply use a camshaft out of this in one of these. I've done it before. I've actually done it. So the thing is, you just got to make a spot for, you got to figure out how you're going to do your how you say it. You got to figure out how you're going to do your cam sensor pickup. You got to figure out how you're going to do that. Because some of these cams, of course, it has the lobe on the other side for the actual distributor, and it